Hello MotoGP fans. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Rins has spoken plainly about a frustrating 2025 campaign with Yamaha, a season where flashes of pace were swallowed by a bike that too often didn't respond. The six-time Grand Prix winner admitted the situation has left him feeling powerless. At times, even while teammate Fabio Quartararo managed occasional highs. Jack Miller has tested Yamaha's new V4 prototype and returned with a clear plan: make it reliable, add power, then fine-tune chassis and electronics, and finally give it the polish that turns a test bike into a race bike. After post-season running at Valencia and work alongside factory riders, Miller explained the steps Yamaha must take to make the V4 competitive in 2026. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Rins didn't mince words about the psychological impact of riding a machine that frequently limits what he can do. For a professional used to fighting at the front, the sensation of being unable to extract the bike's full potential wears on confidence and motivation. That frustration compounds when teammates show different results on the same package. It becomes less about absolute pace and more about a growing sense of helplessness in changing outcomes through pure riding. It's difficult to accept how things are going for us. That frank admission sets the tone. This isn't merely technical troubleshooting. It's a morale problem that the team must address alongside mechanical fixes. Rins described the experience in stark physical terms. Laps where he cannot place the bike where he wants and has to compromise lines or conserve tires because the machine won't cooperate. Those symptoms show up in inconsistent racercraft, good moments punctuated by sudden drops in performance, and they complicate setup work, because engineers cannot reliably translate a rider's feedback into repeatable improvements when the bike behaves unpredictably. On the bike, I feel quite powerless, unable to do what I want. When a rider's instinct and inputs no longer produce predictable responses, progress stalls, confidence falls, and lap time recovery becomes reactive rather than proactive. Part of the sting comes from seeing Fabio Quartararo, who has a long history with Yamaha, manage to find extra performance where others cannot. Rins and his colleagues insist it's not about lost talent. Instead, they point to the bike's characteristics and rider-machine fit. That split within the garage creates pressure. Is it a setup that favors one riding style, or a deeper problem in chassis or electronics that amplifies small differences into big results gaps? It's not the first time, nor the first circuit, where he, Quartararo, is the only one capable of getting something more out of the bike. That internal contrast sharpens the mandate for Yamaha's engineers. Find what works for the broader rider group, not just a narrow sweet spot. Rins also reminded listeners that the pace is not gone. There have been weekends where he fought for podiums and showed the potential is there. Those moments underline the belief within the garage that development can pay off. Yamaha's decision to retire the inline 4 and roll out a V4 for 2026 amidst the current package needs a reset. The factory has been clear that the early part of next season will prioritize development over immediate results, which means patience and steady progress will be essential. When I feel good, something like what happened in Indonesia happens, where I find myself in second or third place. Those sporadic highs are the proof of concept, reminders that with the right platform and a development path that benefits the whole team, the swing back to consistent front-running is possible. Rins' candid reflections are a wake-up call. Yamaha's problem is not a lack of effort or talent, but a package that has not been universally usable. The move to a V4 and the development window ahead offer a clear course, but it will require the factory to deliver a bike that works for Rins, Miller, and Quartararo alike. Until that balance is found, the emotional burden of feeling powerless will remain one of the team's biggest challenges. Miller began with the fundamentals. Before anyone chases horsepower or aerodynamic gains, the prototype must prove it can survive real race miles without surprise failures. Early wildcard outings with restricted power and Yamaha's controlled shakedowns have shown encouraging durability, and that gives the factory permission to push the envelope in other areas. For a manufacturer changing engine architecture, establishing a dependable baseline is crucial. Parts tolerance, cooling, gearbox behavior, and thermal management all need to be predictable before performance gains are layered on. Obviously, it needs to be reliable first of all, which they've shown it to be so far. With that box ticked, the V4 program can move from proof of concept into genuine development mode, taking controlled risks without risking catastrophic setbacks. Next in Miller's checklist is power. The V4 prototype has been deliberately downrated for early tests to focus on baseline behavior. Now the team's objective is to safely free up more horsepower while ensuring the bike can use that extra power on the road and through the corners. That work involves mapping torque curves, refining traction control strategies, and testing how increased top-end affects aerodynamics and chassis balance. The goal is not simply more RPM on paper, but usable, rideable power that helps overtaking and lap time without wrecking tire life. Power is going to be the next thing. We've worked out that it's able to use the power it has now, so it's a matter of increasing the power, which they can do. In practice, this is an iterative process. Add a bit of power, validate tire behavior, then tune electronics, a careful staircase rather than a single leap. With reliability and power moving forward, Miller highlighted the equally critical and intricate business of chassis setup and electronic control. Yamaha's V4 uses different packaging and weight distribution to the inline 4, which changes suspension loads, steering response, and tire behavior. Miller singled out the linkage, suspension tuning, and the rider electronics interplay as areas demanding close attention. Engineers must reconcile mechanical grip with electronic interventions so riders can trust the machine in a variety of race situations: corner entry, mid-corner stability, and exit traction. Then we know it's got a tried and tested suspension system, with the linkage and so on. So the rest will be about sorting out the electronic package and chassis. That phase is where rider feedback becomes invaluable. Tiny changes in feel can mean the difference between a lap time gain and a weekend spent chasing false positives. Finally, Miller talked about the last mile, taking a development platform and turning it into a race-ready weapon. That polish is about workflow and focus, moving away from broad test team explorations and into the detailed, rider-focused program that extracts performance on race weekends. It means harmonizing firmware, finalizing gear ratios, validating race setups, and ensuring every element works together under pressure. For Miller and the team, the Sepping shakedown and subsequent official tests will be the proving ground to see whether that polish translates into consistent lap times and race performance. It's about getting everything in place. So rather than test teams trying different items and stuff like that, we'll start doing what we normally do to get performance from a race bike. Now hopefully we can polish it, essentially. If Yamaha executes that sequence, reliability, power, chassis/electronics, and then polish, the V4 could move rapidly from experimental to competitive as the 2026 season unfolds. Jack Miller's post-test diagnosis reads like a sensible development roadmap. Secure the basics, unlock usable power, tune the chassis and electronics, and then apply the fine polish that makes a bike race-ready. Yamaha's switch to a V4 is a major gamble with big potential upside, but it's a multi-step project that depends on methodical validation. Watch for the Sepping shakedown and early tests. They'll show whether the V4's promise can be turned into consistent lap time and race results. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!